Alright, my name is Chris, and today I'm going to cover the topic of government regulation in our economy. My major claim is strict government regulation in the business sector has negative impacts on the economy. But before I proceed, I'm going to let you know what I mean by strict regulation. What I mean is that the government has like a direct impact in small business with the use of taxes or fees, and also with its policies that have negative effects on a business as it's trying to start up or expand. So my secondary claims will be strict government regulation often causes more issues than originally believed to fix. Strict government regulations hinder the startup and expansion of new businesses. And my third claim is also that because of the previous two claims, the expenses for business has increased, so many companies are bringing their jobs overseas. So I'm going to start by my first claim. Strict government regulation often causes more issues than it fixes. See, this is the problem. When the government tries to go in, it ends up raising extra costs. Because the reason is, like, the United States, we work on a capitalistic system, and it works very well when there is a free market, meaning that the government has minimal to no interaction. It lets the market essentially play itself out. But when the government goes in and tries to mess with it, they may have the best intentions, but oftentimes it creates negative consequences. To back this up, I'm going to cite Edward Yonkins, who has a PhD in economics. He said that government intervention into private markets produce costs and unintended consequences more harmful than the targeted problem itself. Government action creates obstacles to prosperity and economic growth. Initially, the impacts of government regulation are to increase the firm's costs, slow down their decision-making process, and reduce the resources available to produce goods and services. As a result of this, as the cost goes up, companies are less likely to expand and create more jobs, because the problem is when the cost goes up, they also have to pay their employees, they have overhead costs, they have many things that they need to take care of before they can even make a profit, and that's important. If they hire more people, less likelihood of making a profit, so they're not going to hire as much. To back this up, I'm going to let you hear from Nita Campbell, who wrote an article on the small business tax, government regulations, and she's an author for Small Business Trends, which is an online source for anything that has to do with small businesses. What she said is the cost per employee of complying with regulations is $10,585 for small businesses with fewer than 20 employees, but only $7,755 for larger companies. However, almost 90% of businesses in the United States have under 20 employees. That means the vast majority of businesses are affected adversely. See, the problem with this is if you're trying to start a company up, you're trying to take into account that you have loans out because you needed loans to set up your business to begin with. You need to make a profit, but you're not going to be able to hire many people because you have to pay more than your competition, which is already set up. You're trying to be competitive, but it's going to be almost impossible to when a more set up business can have they have more employees, so they're paying less. So they have a greater chance of having lower costs for their services. They're able to possibly make more sales, and as a result, you're not going to likely stay in business very long unless you can quickly find a way to get income. But here's how it affects the economy in the grand scheme of things. If businesses are able to set up and new jobs aren't created, then it still leaves many Americans unemployed without work. As a result of that, I'm going to my third claim now, is that many businesses have decided to outsource their jobs, just go to different countries because it's cheaper. And a statistic that I saw on a website called StatisticRank, it says the total number of outsourced jobs in 2013 was 2,637,239 jobs. Those are all jobs by American companies that aren't going to be available to Americans. I know it sounds kind of crazy to think that, but it makes sense when you think about it. Because the government regulation requires fees, and this, by the way, regulations have to be like stuff like environment codes, fees, taxes, like I said, for the employees, like have to have minimum wage for employees, health services, all those things. But as a result of that, they're going to different countries because other governments, such as like India and China, those are the top two, they don't have as strict of rules for business. And as a result, they can get more employees for the same cost that would only get them less in the United States. So they're going to outsource, and that's taking more jobs away from American people. And the problem with that is jobs are essential to driving the economy because they give the average person money to be a consumer, and the consumer will buy into the economy, will buy back in the economy, and it will create revenue for more businesses, and if more businesses have more profits, they'll hire more people. So essentially, if there's no jobs, the economy is just going to stay stagnant. It's not going to grow. Nothing's going to recover. And that is why I believe that the strict government regulation is actually hurting our economy instead of helping it. Thank you.
All right, Chris, a lot of good things in the speech. I think that you've got a clear statement of your proposition, although the terms are a little bit broad, and I think you're going to need to give us some particulars in a couple of spots. You preview the content for the audience very effectively, and at the beginning you signposted well. I did think that we missed the second point in the body of the speech, but it was clear when you came back to the third point. So there's organizational structure there, but maybe a little bit inconsistent on the citation. The evidence, I thought that you did a good job. You had a couple of good pieces of testimony, a couple of statistics there. Here's the thing that I think that you need. You need some examples to illustrate the kinds of regulations that you're talking about and how they impose these costs and they don't prevent or produce the benefits. So, for instance, are you talking about minimum wage requirements? Are you talking about occupational safety and health regulations? Are you talking about advertising restrictions that people might have? Health and safety code violations. It's much cheaper for somebody to run a business without having to adhere to all the requirements of the health and safety code, for instance, until people get sick and die. That kind of thing. And that would be the argument on the other side. It says, sure, we could reduce those costs. The problem is that when you reduce those costs, you have some other costs that you have to deal with. And so you need to be able to talk about what you think is that overreach that the government is engaging in. I'm assuming that you don't have any objection, for instance, with people being restricted from being able to dump pollutants into waterways, but the question about how they dispose of those or what the requirements are or how often it's regulated, those kinds of things, maybe there's something else that's going on there. The explanation about the differential cost between the smaller businesses and the larger businesses, I think you do have a good explanation about how that has, those rules therefore have a greater impact on the smaller businesses. It's very clear economically how that's going on. I think you do a very good job presenting the material as well. All right.